Are you considering moving into an over 55 community? If so, maybe you've been researching a bit on YouTube, and there seems to be, in my opinion, a lot of haters as to why you shouldn't move into a 55 community. Stay with me. I'm going to talk about 3 reasons why you should consider an over 55 community. Let's dive in. Here we go. Hi, I'm Mimi, and welcome to Mimi and More. So on today's topic, we're going to talk about over 55 communities and why they might indeed just be right for you. So let's go to reason number 1. Reason number 1 is they are, by their name, communities. So if you are relocating, which a lot of people are considering after retirement, you don't know anybody. Maybe you might have 1 or 2 friends who located to that area, but by and large, you are probably going to be going into an area where you know no one. And so an over 55 community is there to give you just that, a community, right? It's not that easy to make friends as we age. I'm sure you've all experienced that. And so the easiest way to do that is to be involved or be a part of a community that sort of has some built-in ways for you to automatically meet people. So first of all, people in your community are going to be near or around your age, maybe some younger, some older, depending. So you've got sort of, individuals on that same age plane, if you will. There are often a lot of activities that are offered in over 55 communities. And it's just a great way to, leave your house every day and find a group that's already established or a place that you can go and meet new people. And it's a lot easier than thinking you're going to go to the gym and meet somebody at the local gym or the supermarket or, the local coffee place. Like, these communities usually have well-established clubs, activities that you can join. Warmer weather places will, they'll have a pool. There might be pickleball leagues. We know there's pickleball leagues in over 55. Tennis, things like that are established that you can sort of go into. And it's just an easier way for you to be in a community setting where you're going to be able to meet people right after you or soon after you move in there. And so you don't have that feeling of, being alone or loneliness that you may have if you're just going to move to a certain area and not know a soul, right? That can get a little lonely. So my reason number 1 is just in the name itself that it is actually a community. And what you're looking for is a community. Number 2 on the list, and this seems to come up a lot in some of the hater videos, is the resale value of your property if you should buy into an over 55 community. So you are limited, correct? Like, if you're buying in an over 55, you've got limits as to who you can sell to, where your resale is available should you reach such point in time that you want to move out of that community for whatever that reason may be. But here's the thing. These communities are popping up all over the place. Everywhere I turn. I do subscribe to a website that promotes over 55 living. It gives you an opportunity to find over 55 communities, and I'll put that link below in the description. But by and large, I'm getting emails from them all the time of new communities sprouting up in the areas that I've designated that I am considering, right? So there seems to definitely, from a builder standpoint, be a need for these communities. So, it's kind of like if you build it, they will come. So there are opportunities, I believe, for resale based on the fact that they keep building new communities. But not only that, but the population is aging, right? So I looked at some statistics. In the 2023 census, 20 million Americans were over the ages of 55 to 59. If you base that on a population of around 340 million, that's roughly 6% of the population is between the ages of 55 and 59. That's a big chunk of people, even assuming that, a small percentage of those 20 million are going to look for a new location in an over 55 community. There are just a lot of us, right? And so those 55 to 59-year-olds are aging. They're getting closer to early 60s, full retirement age. And these are communities that they're probably more than likely going to want to be living in. So I don't think if you were like to buy now, let's say, that a bunch of years down the road that you're going to have any trouble selling your unit, whether it be a townhouse or a freestanding home. So that to me isn't a concern. If you add on top of that that 17% of the population is over 65. So even if you don't even consider those 50-year-olds and you just look at the over 65 population being at 17%, that's a lot of people that may have an opportunity to want to live in an over 55 community. Now, they're over 65, but they also could be 90 at the same time. So it's not going to be the entire population. But my point is that I believe that you won't have as much risk in purchasing within those communities. So of course, I'm not a real estate agent. I am not an economics person, so I don't profess to have any expertise in the area. It's just my gut feeling, but I'm going to go with my gut on this one. Number 3 on the list is over 55 communities are an HOA. They're a homeowners association. And a lot of people get turned off by HOAs. Where I live now, it happens to be a condo. We have an HOA. So I am definitely familiar and well-versed as to how HOAs work. So that said, if you are someone who is not even remotely interested in being in any kind of community, whether it be 55 plus or even a gated community, if you're not looking for any, if you don't want to have any dealings with HOAs, and all of the possible limitations that may be in the community because of the rules or the fees that are involved, then it's very simple. Don't buy in an over 55 HOA community. Like, I don't have to be yelled at by someone on YouTube for the reasons why I shouldn't. If that is not in my wheelhouse, just don't buy there. There's plenty of other housing available, I'm sure, in the areas that you're considering that aren't an over 55 community or a gated community or an HOA type of community. So if HOA is not your thing, just don't look there. It's to me, it's very, very simple, right? So if you are considering buying in an HOA community, you need to look at what the actual rules are before you purchase. So these are the things that, a well-informed consumer is going to mitigate any problems that you may have after you're there. So for example, let's say you're an avid gardener and your HOA has a rule that says you cannot do any sort of landscaping in any way, shape, or form, not even a petunia, in your front bed. Not the community for you. So move on, find a different community where they don't have those limitations, right? Or let's say that you're someone who owns an RV or a boat, and the rules in your community say, or the community you're considering say, you cannot park an RV or a boat in your driveway. So you own one. Well, then don't buy there, right? I just think it's kind of simple. Don't buy in a community that's not going to allow you to do things that you want to do, things that are important to you. Now, by the same token, some of those rules are in place for a good reason, and I think you wouldn't look at them any differently than a regular non-HOA neighborhood that you lived in. So for example, if your neighbor has 8 cars in their driveway and they're constantly fixing and working on their cars and there's tires all over the front yard, well, that's not something that you want to live next to. So you would complain about it if you were in a non-HOA community. So that is somewhat why the rules are there oftentimes in an HOA community, so that these things just never come up because you just can't do them to begin with. Now, you don't know me that well, but I am not necessarily a rule follower. So if I'm okay with some of these things, maybe they're not so bad. One of the things you should be looking at very closely in the HOA, besides the rules, are the finances. And I can't stress this enough. Again, I am in an HOA condo now, so I certainly know about the finances. One of the things that scares people away is, well, if the community doesn't have enough money, one day my maintenance is going to be $300 a month, and then all of a sudden it gets raised to $700, and then I won't be able to afford to live there. So be very diligent in investigating the finances within the community. So what you want to look for is you want to ask for the operating expenses, maybe the last 6 months worth of operating monthly financials. You want to make sure that the community, the building, if it's just individual building or the community, is taking in enough money every month to be able to cover whatever the average monthly expenses are for the community. And at the same time, be banking about 10%, I think is the average, and putting those in the reserve fund so that when that new roof does come due, or when you have to do all new landscaping because a weather event really uprooted a lot of trees, that your association has that money there, and that you're not going to be assessed for it. So the two things that I would look for is look at the monthly financials. Get at least 6 months. If you can get a year's worth, do that. You want to make sure that your association is bringing in enough money every month to cover the expenses and put some in the reserves. In addition, and this is important, if you're buying into an older community, find out when a reserve study was done. And I've learned this myself the hard way from my own community. A reserve study is done to sort of evaluate your overall community or your overall building, as it were. And it looks at it a bit from an engineering standpoint that says, how long is what you have going to last? So let's say you're in a community and there's a community center, right, where your fitness classes are, the gym is there, the canasta room, the bridge room, whatever. And you're going to, the engineering from the reserve study, the engineering comes back and says, you're going to need a new roof in a year, right? You have to, your association has to be able to assess and see where those funds are going to come from. So if you don't have enough funding in advance, then you will have to be assessed, right? But if it says that basically, your community is not that old, maybe it's 20 years old, you've had a reserve study done, and it talks about how long things are going to last. And you can look and you could say, okay, based on what we're doing, we have, this is what we bring in every month. We're putting this much in the reserves. Should we need $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 to put a new roof on or redo the landscaping in 10 or 15 years, the money will be there for it. So you want to be able to cover the day to day, but you also want to make sure that your community is financed enough so that you can overcome or you can pay for those big ticket items when they come due. And if your community is well managed and well funded, you won't necessarily be assessed, right? So, or you may have a small one-time assessment, but those are things you want to look at, right? Get the monthly financials and find out if it's in an older community, when there was a reserve study done, will there be a reserve study? So you can look and see down the line that there'll be enough money there. Another thing that people are concerned with as far as HOAs and the rules are limitations in who can live with you, who can't live with you, who can visit you, who can't. So if you live in an over 55 community and you have children, by and large, it's very possible that if you move in at 55, you'll have younger children, high school age, whatever. So if that is not allowed, right, if you can't have anyone in your unit, in your home or whatever that isn't 55 or over, then that's not the over 55 community for you. And so you should look elsewhere, right? Oftentimes you can have someone live with you who is of a certain age, maybe only for a period of time. So I know people are like, oh, my kid comes home from college and they can't live with me over the summer. Like, first of all, I just don't know that there's a lot of that going on. I can't speak to every HOA rule. Maybe there are. And again, you want to move away from those communities or not consider those communities because they just don't fit your needs or your lifestyle, right? Again, some people have been saying that there's limitations on who can visit you or how long they can stay. Like I heard someone say, my grandchildren can't even come and stay with me over Christmas. Well, I don't know. I can't swear to it, but I think that's a little crazy. Like, I just can't believe you have a community with a rule that said your grandchildren can't come and visit. Now, maybe your grandchildren can't come and stay with you for the whole summer and be at the pool and doing whatever 3 or 4 8-year-olds do. I mean, I don't know. I don't have any grandchildren, so I can't really speak to that. But if you want no limitations, again, a place with rules is just not the place for you to begin with. So, but I think those rules are there for a reason, and I personally don't have a problem with them. So those are my 3 things or 3 key points about why I think that HOAs, that over 55 communities with an HOA are a good thing and can be a good thing as long as you do your homework and know what you want before you sign up for a purchase. So I hope you found this video helpful in some way, or at least in a positive sort of way. If you do, I'd love it if you would consider subscribing, hit the like button, and I hope to see you again in my next video. Thanks. Have a great rest of your day.